Happy 4th of July. Of course, this is only the 3rd of July, but this is as close as we can get here on the Cow Report. It's the 3rd of July, 1995. I want to welcome you to today's program, coming to you from the beautiful downtown Ellie Phillips Memorial Library and Taco Stand. And of course, you know, down here, we go from raising the cattle to slaughtering them to putting the meal right on your table right down here at the Ellie Phillips Memorial Library and Taco Stand. We have our own professional slaughterhouse right here in the basement, and we raise them in the underground pasture that you've seen on the program in the past, and we try to give you grade A #1 beef for our tacos and other beef sandwiches right here on the Cow Report. And of course, as usual, Fred, the true Stafford, is not here. Once again, he's lost his way down to the station, so we're going to make a call to his house and see if we can find him. Oops. Yeah, well, we'll get right on that here. All right, there we are. And we'll see where Freddie's at. Because once again, because of Freddie's age and advanced stages of Alzheimer's, he loses his way down here sometimes. So we have to look for him. Hopefully, he's got both hands on the wheel. Okay, well, in the meantime, since Freddie's not here, we're going to have callers call in and answer the quizzes and the questions of the day. And for your prize today, you'll get this Kleenex. So make sure you call in. Of course, the number will be on the screen later on. Well, Freddie is lost out there somewhere in the ozone. I don't know what happened, if he couldn't find his way down here or took a left when he's supposed to take a right. But in the meantime, getting down to the business at hand here. You know, folks, tobacco smoking and tobacco chewing and pipe smoking, cigar smoking are the #1 ways that people poison themselves in this country. It's the #1 cause of death and disease and destruction in families. The hospitals are full of people with cancer of various, from the lips on down to the lungs, from various types of tobacco. Chewing tobacco will cause lip and throat and mouth cancer. The smoking of cigars and cigarettes and inhaling will cause lung cancer and emphysema and all kinds of different life-threatening diseases. Several 100,000 people per year die. So the state legislature here just recently voted to raise the tobacco tax per pack of cigarettes to 6 cents. I don't know what they're going to do on loose tobacco or cigars or pipe tobacco or chewing tobacco, but on the packs of cigarettes, it's raised 6 cents a pack, which is quite a steep raise. That's 10 packs to a carton. That's 60 cents a carton increase. And that probably, most of that 90 or maybe 110% of that will be passed on to you, the consumer. But anyway, you would think that the civic leaders at our leader telegram here in Eau Claire are, you would think they would want to promote a healthy lifestyle amongst the people that read their paper, but evidently not. And we showed you on last week's show how they ran a Swisher Sweets ad, and they tend to gravitate towards the sporting page to run these ads. Well, once again, matter of fact, I'm going to have to get my money back on this paper, because the pages weren't even straight on it. But anyway, if we can get a close-up from our cameraman there, we'll bring it in and show you on camera 2. We'll show you the ad that was in July 1st paper, which was Saturdays. I haven't checked Sunday or Mondays. You got a close-up of that yet? Okay, you can back up just a little there, cameraman. Back up a little, get to there, right there. That's good. Okay, taste, satisfaction, quality. and it's not a cigarette, it's a Swisher Sweet. Well, part of the ad's cut off, but once again, you don't see any warning in there about caution. Cigarette smoking may be hazardous to your health, may cause cancer, emphysema, or may cause problems with pregnancy. And people inhale those things, just like they do any other tobacco. So, once again, the Leader Telegram is in the name of the almighty dollar, and the bottom line, they're pushing poison in the Leader Telegram. It's not the first time they pushed poison. If you recall, not too long ago, they had 8 days of rage here in town where they were pushing the homosexual lifestyle, trying to tell us how glorious that was. They didn't show you the people that had syphilis and other things from that kind of lifestyle. They wanted to glamorize it all. They didn't show you people laying in hospital beds dying of AIDS. It was just a whole 8 days of glamorous gay lifestyle here at the Leader Telegram. And now, from reading the articles that are coming in on the abortion issue, they're tending to want to push the abortion lifestyle here in the Eau Claire area, so they can make it convenient for their daughters and friends and people in the area here that don't care about killing babies. They want to make it convenient for them to do it right here in the Eau Claire area. So from what I read, my personal opinion of the way the Leader Telegram is handling that situation here in Eau Claire, they're tending to lead towards the abortionist, in favor of the abortionists. All right. We already got a couple of calls lined up, and as soon as we take those, you can try and call back in. I'll be taking the first call right after I read this first. What happened on this day in history? Of course, A&E has, on cable system right now, has an excellent series going on the American Revolution, and it tells about all the different characters: Benedict Arnold, George Washington, General Clinton, who fought for the British. It's probably some of President Clinton's relatives. That general is helping to try and overthrow the government, and so is our president. But anyway, on this date, July 3rd, if you have the right answer to this, you will win this Kleenex. And if the cameraman can just raise it just a little, you're cutting off my raccoon, and this is the Loyal Order of the Raccoon's official meeting going on right here right now, so we don't want to harm the raccoon in any way. That's our personal lodge, what do you call it? Mascot. All right, so July 3rd, 1775. This general is given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts. What was the name of that general? On this date, July 3rd, 1775. And that, I think that series is running again tonight. And when it was all over, it took quite a few years for the American Revolution, but when it was all over, the colonists and the militias, the irregular militias, had pretty much control of the United States from the Canadian border down to Florida and from the Mississippi east to the Atlantic Ocean. So it was quite a protracted battle and quite a few casualties for that war. And the French finally came in on the side of the Americans, and the Sons of Liberty they were called, one of their names. Sons and Daughters. Last night's program showed about a woman who helped on one of the cannon brigades to fight when some of her comrades fell in the battle. So we'll take a call here, and remember now, this little box here will let us know if you want to get radical. We don't mind you being a little radical, but just keep your language clean there so that we can adhere to FCC rules. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was wondering if you killed that raccoon that's on your hat.
No, that's an authentic roadkill from Minnesota.
So you hit it with your car?
No, my brother has a trading post in northern Minnesota, and he makes hats out of raccoon and skunk and other roadkill animals, and sells them for quite a bit. I think this one retails for about $150, $175 when they're done. And he personally signs them, and he leaves the tail on. These are About as authentic as you can get for the 1830s, 1840s. This is about how they looked back then.
That sounds pretty expensive for a dead raccoon, though.
Pardon?
It sounds pretty expensive for a dead raccoon.
Yeah, okay, well, you got the answer to that question for today. July 3rd, 1775. What general was given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts? Well, evidently, that's another product of our public school system. He couldn't answer the question, so he bailed out on us. We'll take another call right here, and then we'll continue with our business of the day. And, of course, as you can tell, Fred, the true Stafford, is not here. We don't know if he lost his way down here, or if he forgot to put gas in the car, or if he forgot to, or if he couldn't find the car and had to walk. We're searching for Fred Stafford. There's an all-points bulletin out for Fred Stafford to be on the show today. And if he's trying to be cute or trying to be original, it's wearing off real quick, Fred. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I think I can answer your question for you.
Do you have to where Fred's at, or the other question?
The history question.
All right, well, go ahead. What's the answer?
Benedict Arnold?
No, you're going to have to watch the show a little more closely. Now, Benedict Arnold was one of the heroes of the American Revolution, but his name now is synonymous with traitor
Right.
in this country. But if you're watching that series, you'll see that he was one of the major factors in winning the American Revolution up till the time that he switched sides and went with the British. And I guess they haven't really revealed why exactly on the program. If you watch it tonight, it'll probably tell. But it's interesting that he was a major factor in several major victories for the Americans during that war. But no, that is not the answer.
Okay. Well, I have another question for you.
All right.
You were talking about the Leader Telegram a few minutes ago when you introduced the program, and you speculated that they had I guess what we'd call a liberal, at least a culturally liberal slant. Do you think that, in last fall's Republican primary for U.S. Congress, that they didn't give Don Brill fair coverage?
Not only didn't they give Don Brill fair coverage, it was obvious, and it was obvious to most readers that they were in Steve Gunderson's pocket. Steve Gunderson owned the Leader Telegram in that whole election. I ran in the fall, and it was pathetic. It was so slanted.
Right.
I mean, it was just so obvious that if you couldn't see it, then you need glasses, because it was a sham. It was pathetic for a paper that is supposed to be representing all the people of the Chippewa Valley and has a Sunday subscription rate of about 50,000, and the rest of the week about 35,000. They even slanted that. They put when they did their profiles on the candidates, they gave Stour and Gunderson the weekend coverage where there's more readership on Sunday, and they put mine on Monday where 15,000 fewer viewers could read my profile.
Right.
So just subtle things like that, that's 15,000 less people that got to read, unless they scrambled around and found a paper later on. But
the thing I remember that I thought was the most outrageous was they printed a letter which made a really extreme accusation about Don Brill, and then the whole campaign after that letter became Brill was on the defensive all the time, and he kept denying, certain.
Well, yeah, that's obvious smear tactics, and it was obvious that the ownership of the Leader Telegram was in cahoots with the people that did that sham. It was phony from the start. It was old news. It was from years before. I was at that convention. Don Brill didn't say anything racist. It was just used as the only thing that they could find that they pulled out of the hat, and they used that one woman to write a letter, and that's how it started. And then they fed on it.
I thought it was poor judgment to publish that letter, yeah.
It's typical left-wing propaganda, and Leader Telegram's an expert at it. They've had many, many years of practice. And like the writer that they used for all the articles on the 3rd District race was Eric Lindquist, whose family, he comes from a long line of liberal Democrats. And how could he be subjective or objective or, neutral on a thing? He couldn't be. He was slanted, and the Leader Telegram gave him his marching orders. I want you to help us reelect Steve Gunderson. We did not get fair press coverage in this area.
What did you think about WEAU television? Did they give you fair coverage?
Well, the first time they interviewed me, they made some accusations that weren't true and kind of threatened to use them against me in the campaign, and I called their bluff, and they didn't use most of it, but they called me a narcotics pusher, and marijuana is not a narcotic, but they kept pounding away at that line all through the campaign, and I complained to them about it, and they said, well, according to our definition, it is. So I looked through DEA records and looked through the definitions in the law books, and marijuana is not a narcotic. But they kept pushing that line because it sounds more scary that I was a narcotics pusher.
Well, but see, the thing I think is interesting is Steve Gunderson's, alleged corruptions are just as bad as that, if not worse, given the health risks.
Well, his corruptions go deeper than that, or his alleged corruption.
Right.
There were several...
But all those years, they never went after him on that. They only waited till he announced it publicly.
Well, they kind of nipped at his heels a little bit, but see, they were doing it from a standpoint that it was just so wonderful that Steve Gunderson revealed to everybody that he'd been a homosexual through his whole political career and lied to his constituents. They didn't bring that out or play up on that. They played up on how wonderful it was that he'd finally revealed his true self to his readers and how courageous it was of him to tell everyone that he was a sodomite.
Right. Well, so you think WEAU was pretty slanted then, or somewhat?
Well, they don't seem to get as involved with politics as Leader Telegram. Leader Telegram, you could tell which side of the bread their peanut butter's on, but the Channel 13 is a little more subtle. They kind of try to ignore most everybody. They slant a little bit towards the Democrats, but they will take your money for advertising. That is one thing that they will do. And I was surprised, though, during the campaign, who turned out to be the most obstructionist was Time Warner. When I tried to run my TV ad on Time Warner, they actually pulled the ad and refused to run it. And I had to threaten lawsuit, and it had to go all the way to their headquarters in Kansas City or wherever they're located at, and they had to do some quick scrambling under the threat of a federal lawsuit that they backed off and agreed to run my ad. But I walked in there and to the Time Warner TV production studio where they were producing my commercial and where they were going to air it, and they told me they weren't going to run it. And they had the check right there at the front desk. They were going to hand it back to me. And I took the check and started to walk out, and I turned around and put the check back on the desk and said, I paid for this advertising fair and square, and I expect it to be run. And that's when they started scrambling on their end, reversed their decision not to run those ads, and ran the 30 to 40 ads that you saw on cable in this area. But they were very seriously trying to throw a roadblock in equal access to the airwaves as far as my part.
So in the next election coming up, do you think will the Leader Telegram, show favoritism towards a moderate Republican, quote unquote, like Matt Gunderson, or are they going to?
Yes, I'm sure they're already in the pocket of the Gunderson machine. Matt Gunderson's talking about running. Now that gives Matt Gunderson 20 years of the Steve Gunderson machine. Now that's not only all the contacts from Dubuque, Iowa, all the way up to past Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and from Hudson all the way over almost to or past Augusta, and everything just about in between. It's one of the biggest districts in the country as far as land size, or at least east of the Mississippi. But you will see the full weight and force of the Leader Telegram bearing down on the other candidates to try and help elect Steve Gunderson's brother Matt. Now, Steve also will throw all of that PAC money contacts and all the all those perk contacts and all the years where Steve took the legalized bribes. You're going to see all those contacts, all the lobbyists. You're going to see all that stuff, all the names and addresses and phone numbers of contacts. It's all going to be dumped in his brother's lap. So it's going to be quite a formidable machine to begin with for somebody to go up against. And I see where the Democrats have targeted the 3rd District for a victory, and they're running prosecutor with quite an impressive record of credentials. Harvard Law School. He's a prosecutor in the La Crosse area right now. But
Who's that now?
his name is Gard, I think, G-A-R-D. I'm thinking that's what it is. Might not be that, but it was in the paper about a week ago. He has coordinators already in 14 of the 17 counties, but he's a heavy hitter. The Democrats, that's why Bear pulled out. When this guy announced he was going to run, Bear said, I can't beat something like this. This guy's credentials are too good. And Bear would also have the drug problems hanging over him all through this campaign too. So Bear pulled out. Stour's not running. So you got the professor or the head of the college from La Crosse and this prosecutor running, and it looks like the prosecutor is going to be a shoe-in for that side of the primary. On the Republican side, you have a guy named Harsdorf, who was former 3rd District Chairman of the Republican Party up till the time that Doug Knight took over. And he's now on a committee handpicked by Steve Gunderson to be chairman of an agriculture committee. He also gave a preliminary agreement to the Brill camp that he would not openly support Gunderson in the last campaign in the primary, and then turn around and openly supported Gunderson. So he is running. His name is Harsdorf, Jim Harsdorf. He was in the Assembly and Senate. His sister is in the Assembly now, Sheila Harsdorf. He's well known around Beldenville and Hudson and in that area. He's less known in La Crosse and Eau Claire. So the only challenge will be to him will be Matt Gunderson. So that'll be the way it's shaping up right now, and it probably looks that those will be the two in the primary. There could be some other minor players get in the primary, but it'll come down to those two. Now, I guess Harsdorf has pulled a coup here. He has managed to grab Steve Gunderson's, one of Steve Gunderson's office managers from the Black River Falls office, and she is in his camp right now. So that was a major coup because she has a lot of names and numbers and addresses that she can give to Harsdorf. So we could see things heating up. Of course, it is over a year away to the election, but it'll probably be a close primary because Matt Gunderson, even with all the full weight and force of his brother's name, does not have the name recognition himself, but he will use the Gunderson name. But he is going to try and shove down the throats of the activists in the party the idea of being pro-abortion, and he's gung-ho pro-abortion.
Right.
Now, in a primary, only activists turn out. Primaries are poorly attended. Very few people come out to vote. So it tends to be the activists that get active and get their people out, whether it be right wing, left wing, or center. That's who gets elected, the ones that get out that faction of the party. Of course, they vote on party lines. A Democrat could switch over and vote Republican, but he wouldn't be able to vote for any other Democrats. So,
well, are there any other conservatives who are thinking of running, or is it just going to be Harsdorf?
Brill, there hasn't been a peep out of him. I think you've probably seen Brill pretty much hanging up, even though you look at the statistics, and Brill came pretty close in some counties, and with probably another 2 weeks, it would have been a horse race, even with the formidable odds and the machine he was up against. 2 more weeks, and Brill, it would have been a horse race. It could have been too close to call. But he hasn't made any announcements yet, so it could very well be that it's just going to boil down to a 2-man race. No other people. On the Democratic side, there's one other candidate, Mark Weinholt, who I beat in the general election. I came in 3rd, he came in 4th. He switched to his rightful place in society, which he was to begin with. He tried to hoodwink people into thinking he was some kind of parasite. That's a phrase I've coined and it's copyrighted, P-E-R-O-T-C-I-T-E. But he tried to play up like he was a parasite. But now he switched to his rightful place in society. He's gone back to the Democratic Party where he was from to begin with and never really left. And he's running a distant 3rd in probably any polls that you show or you see out there right now. He would show up a distant 3rd. But that's it, those 5. The prosecutor, Matt Gunderson, Mark Weinholt, Harsdorf. Well, I guess that's just 4. Oh, the professor, the head of the junior college down in La Crosse, who, when I went up against him in a debate in La Crosse, and he wasn't impressed at all for being the president of a college down there. He didn't impress me at all. I felt like I ran circles around him.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Sorry you didn't get that call right. Well, we still got a call on line one. Sorry to keep you waiting 26 minutes, but there was some interesting discussion going on there. So we're going to take that call on line one right now. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Chuck.
Now, do you have the answer to that question?
No, I don't.
Let me read it to you first.
Oh, okay.
On this date, July 3rd, 1775, what general is given command of the American troops in Cambridge, Massachusetts?
Would that be Robert Plant?
Nope. You do not win the Kleenex. Sorry to say.
Well, Chuck, I have a couple other things to say.
All right, well, let's see.
I agree with you that I think the Leader Telegram is affiliated with the Communist Party. And it's,
I don't know if I'd go that far.
well, I have valid evidence that it's tied with the Communist Party and the Mafia. And it's just trying to feed our youth and brainwash it with its propaganda. And I think that it's going to hinder your election for the Congress.
Well, just a second here. I'll show you how slanted they are.
Okay.
If the cameraman will get on camera two there and get a close-up of this, of today's Leader Telegram, I'll show you how slanted they are against me.
Sounds good.
What's that front? You got to get a close-up of that bottom headline there on the front page. Back up just a little. Right there. Oh,
There you go.
okay. Lee's mansion grounds may have to go. Now I ask you, what other paper would write something like that?
Damn. God damn.
On the 3rd of July, they're attacking my relatives. Robert E. Lee's mansion is butting up, or the Arlington Cemetery is butting up against the former home of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, and so they're talking about moving it.
That is a shot below the belt.
I know. See, what happened during the Civil War is set now in history for time immemorial. You can't go back and change it. So now here, they're tinkering around and trying to move one of the historical sites, which is ridiculous. The only other time that they have moved such a site of such magnificent and important history in the history of the world is when they moved the giant statues from the pyramids away from the Aswan Dam over in Egypt when they built
Yeah,
that
definitely.
dam, and they moved those up higher. And so now when you go over there, you're looking at a synthetic site there. It's actually the same stones, but they've been put in a new place.
Too bad.
Now they want to move the physical mansion, Robert E. Lee's mansion. Now his relatives go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Some of his relatives signed the Declaration of Independence.
Robert Plant?
Robert E. Lee.
Oh.
And some of the other generals were in some of the other famous wars, Lee generals, and so there's a long history of Lee's. Matter of fact, Robert E. Lee was asked to be the general of all forces for the Union forces.
Yeah, but he wanted to stay loyal to his Virginia state.
Right. And so there you have it.
That's right. And I was wondering, how is your run for election going?
Well, the last polls we took, it looks like we're in second place, right behind Harsdorf. So,
Oh, really?
and I haven't even announced I'm running yet. So,
Well, I've stopped by your office a couple times, but it's been closed. And
yeah, we've kind of put it in soil bank up here for a few more months, and we kind of put it in mothballs. But we'll see what happens here in the next few weeks and decide whether we're going to jump in again. We have about 3,000 loyal voters from the last time. If we can take 3,000 times 20, we can win it.
that's cool. And I was also wondering, what is Kurt Cobain always doing on your roof?
On my roof,
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain. I don't know. I've never seen that. Where's that?
General for the Potomac Army.
Kurt Cobain. I don't know about that one. I don't catch that one. Well, thanks a lot, caller. All right, well, we haven't been able to find Fred Stafford. So we put out a nationwide alert to find Fred, the true Stafford, to see what's happened to him. Either he lost his car, his keys, or he can't find you-know-what with both hands, but he ain't here. I ask you, does that look like Fred, the true Stafford, is here? The question and the answer are both no. He hasn't been able to find his way down here. We don't know if it's some kind of protest over the Catholic War veterans or if he's just pouting or him and Betty got in a fight. We don't know exactly what's happened. Hopefully somebody will call in with the news. Maybe this will be that caller. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hello, Chuck. I am Bob from the lovely town of Altoona. I don't know where Brett is, but I was wondering if you had gone to Sawdust City Days at all and what you felt about it.
No, I tend to stay away from that. Hopefully they're going to move that out to the new fairgrounds next year and get the traffic jams and the boozing and everything out there. Of course, the only drawback is then you'll have drunks driving back unless they force people to ride a bus from the south edge of Eau Claire, say at the RC, that bank right there across the road there. If they tend to make them hop on a bus there and shuttle them back, so at least they don't drive too much while they're drinking. But at one time in this country, 50% of the drivers coming at you on any given Friday or Saturday night were drunk. I guess that's went a little below 50%, but there was an increased hazard out to the weekend of the of that Sawdust City Days. But I understand it was a success, and we congratulate the JCs and the city of Eau Claire for making success, keeping the arrest down to nil and the incidents of drunken driving down, and they did an excellent job, and hopefully they will move that whole thing out south of town next year.
Yeah.
Were you at it? Did you go to it?
Oh, yeah, I did, just for one night. But
What did you think about it?
it was nice.
Did you see Paul Revere and the Raiders?
No, I didn't see them.
Oh, well, there was some controversy about how good they were, but...
A couple bands got rained out.
Oh, well, I guess, in the sweltering heat, I'm sure it was kind of rough on some of the people to stand out there when it was almost 100 degrees. Probably down there where that was at, kind of in the valley where it's at, it was probably over 100 degrees.
Yeah, I hear you. Could you explain your relation to Robert E. Lee, please?
Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
Well, there was only a handful of Lees that came across on the boats from the old country, the European old country. And then from there, the Lees scattered out westward. And my branch of the Lees made it up into Minnesota and Wisconsin. And that's where they settled. Actually, they were in Gettysburg, South Dakota at one time, which is kind of ironic because that's where Robert E. Lee ended up his career as a general, surrendering to U.S. Grant. And another ironic thing was back in high school, on our football team, we had one person that was related to U.S. Grant, and myself were on the same team.
Ah.
So that was back in the 60s, a little bit of 60s folklore.
Oh, thank you very much.
Did you have the answer to that question?
Could you repeat that?
July 3rd, 1775. This general is given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts.
I don't know that one right now, Chuck.
Okay, are you a product of the Eau Claire or Altoona public school system?
I'm a product of, well, both, actually.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and there you have it, folks. All right. Hello?
Yeah, didn't you read in the paper that Fred's the one that got thrown off the roller coaster?
You did?
Yeah.
Was that in today's paper?
No, yesterday's.
Well, I haven't talked to Fred since yesterday. What was he down at Six Flags America or what?
South Carolina.
Huh. What happened?
He got thrown off 100 feet.
He did?
Yep.
I didn't hear that.
Well, read in the newspaper.
Maybe he's in the obituary. I didn't check today's obituary.
Fred Stafford, right?
Yeah, Fred the Truth Stafford. See. Somebody asked me why I read the Liberal Telegram if it's so far to the left. Well, you have to read it to study it and understand your enemy. You have to know your enemy, and one way to do that is to read the enemy's paper. Well, he's not in the obituaries. He's not in the arrest record.
What do you think about the cameraman not being able to shoot in that case about the girl drawing her kids?
Well, I think it's a very good idea, even though I produce programs myself and have used cameras, these types of cameras for over 10 years. I think it's sensational enough. It's hard enough for her to get a fair trial. if they want to sequester the jury for 6 to 8 months or a year like they're doing the O.J. Simpson trial, you've seen what happens there with sequestering. They've already lost 10 or 12 of their jurors. They only got 2 left. They've still got 6 months left of the trial there. If you want it, either you're going to turn it into a circus or you're going to have decorum, keep it a room where law is decided, and otherwise, on appeal, it should be thrown out, like the O.J. trial should be thrown out just with the zoo it's turned into. But in her case, this is a very serious situation, and she needs to be given all... See, she's innocent until proven guilty, and so that decorum has to be maintained, and you can't do it in a circus-like atmosphere. It's going to be bad enough when they leave the courthouse every day, let alone inside the courthouse.
All right, thanks a lot.
Wait a minute, did you get that answer?
What's that?
On this date, July 3rd, 1775, what general was given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts? 220 years ago today.
General Carey.
Nope. Where'd you go to school at? Public schools.
Bloomer.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, we were hoping we'd get an open line to call Fred's house again, but no such luck. And we're still waiting for the answer to that question. I hope we've caught up on the calls a little bit. And, you know, folks, a guy named Mikhail Gorbachev had a love-hate relationship going with the American people. The leftists loved him and the conservatives hated him. But he resided over the Soviet Union from 1985, it seems like 1885, till 1991, when it collapsed around him. No thanks to him. He had to bail out. He's lucky to get out of there with his own life. But anyway, now he is the head of a group called, the name of this group, he's headquartered in San Francisco at the Presidio. It's called the Gorbachev Foundation, USA, the Presidio, San Francisco, California. Fax number 415-771-4443. The Gorbachev Foundation. He couldn't be headquartered in his own country because he can't fleece the Russians. They don't have any money. They get about $20, $30 a week salary if they're lucky. By the way, about 90% of the former Soviet Union is back under the iron fist of the communists in that area. The Russian Soviet military might is being rebuilt and exported to the countries that they abandoned there for a couple years. It's all part of the overall international communist conspiracy, and here's how the theory goes. Sometimes you have to take 2 steps backwards to make 1 step forward. So the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, started taking their 2 steps backwards, and now they're taking their giant leap forward. We're seeing it right before our eyes. Not too many days ago, a Russian submarine was observed, an attack submarine with nuclear missiles was observed on our west coast, hounding some of our shipping and some of our submarines. So they have their missiles still pointed at us. If you saw a 60 Minutes show not too long ago, it only takes a couple minutes for the Russians to redirect their nuclear bombs at us, over 10,000 of them. Right now, the United States is buying some of their spent radioactive fuel for billions of dollars, giving the Russians hard cash, which they turn around with to make munitions, which they turn around to sell to foreigners to make more hard cash, because they're rearming themselves and their Soviet proteges around the world, and they still are a terrorist state. Their terrorism right now, if you want to look at what they're doing in the way of terrorism, just look at a little country called Chechnya, which declared independence from the former Soviet Union, and you'll see how they have annihilated that country from one end to the other. They're just totally leveling it. It's almost to the point where not one brick or stone is left on top of another. Here's some rumblings out there. Hopefully it's Fred the Truth Stafford. Maybe not. But in the meantime, we'll take a call, and then we're going to get into the State of the World Forum, which is going to be held in San Francisco at the Gorbachev Foundation, September 27th through October 1st, 1995. The title is Towards a New Civilization, Launching a Global Initiative. It's going to be interesting to reveal to you some of the people that are involved in this massive push during the next 5 years. This is the launching of the massive push to usher us into the New World Order. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
How you doing, Charlie?
All right.
Atta boy. Hey, are you a Brewer fan?
I'm not too much into baseball. When I was living in Minnesota back in the 50s, and actually I stayed in Minnesota during the summers when I was growing up.
Oh, I wanted to comment on the...
I was a Twins fan, but I'm not too hot on the Brewers.
Did you see the little fight they got in the other day with the White Sox after
No.
Rob Dibble threw one at that guy's head?
Was it on purpose?
It was on purpose, man.
Did anyone get hurt?
No, but a bunch of people got kicked out of the game, you know. But what's on your hat anyway? What is that?
That is the official hat of the Loyal Order of the Raccoons, Eau Claire chapter,
I like that.
and that's an official raccoon roadkill.
Oh, yeah?
My brother, the mountaineer and rendezvouser, James Lee, made
Oh,
that
yeah?
and signed it. I think this is number 50 of the ones he's made. He sells them for anywhere between $150 and $200. Okay, caller. Well, here's the question of the day. Let's see if you can answer it.
I got to wish someone a happy birthday first.
All right.
Hey, Justin Wilson, you turned 16 today.
You did.
You did.
That's pretty good. He's almost a 4th of July baby, huh?
Yeah, he found some food.
Okay, on this date, July 3rd, 1775, you're about the 6th caller that hasn't been able to answer this. 1775.
Okay.
This general was given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts. What was his name?
McClellan.
Nope.
What the fuck?
Okay, all right, there you have it. Okay, we'll take another call here. If Fred has entered the building, ladies and gentlemen, he can make his entrance now. If not, I think we've sent out a search party to find him. We're on foot between the Eau Claire L.E. Phillips Memorial Library and Taco Stand and his house, which is about 2 miles away. And of course, he could have walked it by now. But you know, one day I found him out there in the front yard on his hands and knees looking for his keys. Okay. State of the World Forum. The mission is: the State of the World Forum is the launching of a multi-year global initiative to focus on the fundamental challenges and opportunities confronting humanity as we enter the next phase of human development. It is being held in the belief that at this momentous juncture in history, between the ending of the Cold War and the dawn of the new century, we are experiencing the birth of the first global civilization. In other words, the one world government, the New World Order. And, of course, the Gorbachev Foundation. Chairman is Mikhail Gorbachev. Co-chairs are President Oscar Arias, President Oscar Akayev, Prime Minister Tansu Çiller of Turkey, Prime Minister Ruud Lubbers, Secretary George Shultz, Mr. Ted Turner, and Archbishop Desmond Boom Boom Tutu from South Africa. Okay, some of the other illustrious members of the Executive Committee are Alan Cranston, John Naisbitt, Lynn Twist, and but what's interesting is the 100 fellows that are going to be attending this momentous occasion where they lay out the blueprints and the plans for the New World Order, and they've set up a goal to pretty much have this in place by the year 2000. Some of your more illustrious members are Dwayne Andreas, Chairman and CEO of Archer Daniel Midland, and also CFR Trilateral Commission. Lester Brown, President World Watch. Zygmunt Brzezinski, George Bush, Alan Cranston, Javier Perez de Cuellar, former Secretary General UN, Mario Cuomo, Governor of New York, Abba Eban, former Prime Minister of Israel, Peter Gabriel, composer, Sonia Gandhi of the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, William Gates, head of Microsoft, Jane Goodall, the Monkey Girl, Albert Gore, Vice President. All right, let's see. Václav Havel, President of Czech Republic. Gordon Humphrey, U.S. Senator. Robert Kaplan, Paul Kennedy, historian, Yale. Ted Koppel from television. Who else we got here? Well known. Michael Murphy, founder of the Esalen Institute. John Naisbitt, author of Megatrends. Colin Powell. Carl Sagan. George Shultz. These are all fellows. There's 100 of them. Oliver Stone, that hotbed of liberalism, and a director of several movies, including Natural Born Killer. Maurice Strong. Prince Sultan, who calls himself an astronaut. Margaret Thatcher, Alvin Toffler, Ted Turner, Desmond Boom Boom Tutu, Paul Volcker, Timothy Worth. It's who's who of the one world type gurus out there all around the world. There's 100 of them going to gather in San Francisco to map out the strategy to take over the world for their one world, new world order. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah. I'd like to ask a question.
All right. Is it viewable?
Yes, it is very viewable.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to ask you a question. You got to answer this question to win the Kleenex.
The Kleenex?
On this date, July 3rd, 1775, what general is given command
No, I don't want to talk about that.
of American troops at
No.
Cambridge,
Well, what are you talking about?
Massachusetts? Can you answer that question? Have you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, I was watching The Common Man with Randy Minister the other day, and he claimed that you were against NAFTA, and yet you still drive a Japanese car, and I was wondering what you have to say about that.
You know, Condom Man has something to do, he's got a fetish with condoms and racing. And his mind is kind of locked into this racing. And it's been locked there now for about 25 years in cars. Now, what I drive is a Geo, which is an American-Japanese car.
Yeah, but he claims it was made in Japan.
Well, you know, if that's all Common has to talk about in his show, you know, he might as well hang up his jockstrap. If he even has one. Or if he can find one that fits. I don't know if they make them that small. Okay, so what's the question? First of all, caller, have you got the answer to that question?
What was the question?
July 3rd, 1775. This general is given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts.
I don't care about that.
All right. What school did you say you went to?
What?
Which high school did you go to?
Memorial?
Another fine example of our public school system. That's about the 10th call now where nobody's been able to answer this question. It's unfortunate. Got a couple of bills here. I've held them up before. One is from the House of Representatives. The other one's from the U.S. Senate. They're fairly thick. One of them takes away a lot of your civil rights and goes against the not only Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, but the Constitution. It's called a bill to prevent and punish acts of terrorism and for other purposes, and built into these bills, the other one came out of the House, and it's called a bill to combat terrorism. These will be molded together, melted together, put on the president's desk, and he will sign them into law not too long, unless you call your Congressman Steve Gunderson or your U.S. Senator Cole or Feingold and say, Feingold has been voting for liberty on this one and against these bills. But this gives the President of the United States the right to pick out any group or individual in this country and declare them a terrorist without due process of law, have them arrested. And if you want to stop that, you better get in gear and call your congressman or senator. And right now it's in the House, and it's under the bill H.R. 1710, if you want to talk to anyone in the House about it. But then there will be a conference where the House and Senate gets together. In the Senate, it's Senate Bill 735. It's coming down right at you. And the worst person that we could give this to is President Bill Clinton, because he was a left-wing radical during the Vietnam War. He was a traitor to this country, and he would use this against his conservative enemies. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Chuck. I was just wondering, why are you wearing that glove on your hand?
This glove here is in solidarity with Michael Jackson and
So you jerk off with it, huh?
and O.J. Simpson until we find out the endings of those two cases. They are guilty until proven. They are innocent until proven guilty. Even though this glove has blood on it and was found at the scene of the crime out there, it's still see, these two gentlemen have some fetish with gloves, and so this is just being warned to remind you of that situation. Good. We got a call. We're going to call Fred right now and see what happened to him. Can't even get through. All right. Well, hopefully Fred has made his way down here. It's only 2 miles. He could have walked there by now. It's been 51 minutes. Fred Stafford, where art thou? Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to say hi to Jake Fenner and Clay Johnson and Jess Johnson. I'd just like to say, what are your views? Do you think O.J. is guilty or innocent?
Well, you know, he's spending his whole fortune on the trial, and to him, it's to his benefit to continue this thing for 5 years. So if he loses now, he'll go back and appeal it, but the overwhelming evidence is against him as far as what the public is seeing. The Simpson defense is that there was an elaborate conspiracy to deprive him of his rights, but you would have to have something like 50 to 100 different people in law enforcement and the judicial and the legal system out there to make this so-called conspiracy work, and including the two people who were murdered and their families. They would all have to be in on it on this elaborate conspiracy to make it unfold the way Simpson wants it to. But he's got nothing to lose. He's got life in prison that he's facing, and so it's to his benefit to use everything and anything he can to prolong and stretch out the case, because on retrial, some of the witnesses aren't going to come back the second time. Others have been proven to be phonies. Some of the evidence has been proven to be deteriorated. So the longer he can stretch it out, the better it is for him. So if they lose now, they'll go back and appeal it. It'll be like the Menendez brothers trial. That's being stretched out now, 4 or 5 years. So he's got nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing what he's doing. Personally, I would say that he's guilty.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks.
Now I got a question for you.
Okay.
On this date, July 3rd,
Yeah.
1775,
Okay.
what general is given command of American troops at Cambridge, Massachusetts?
How about General Lee?
No, there was a Charles Lee in the Revolutionary War that George Washington had to relieve of his command. The British were overwhelming his forces, and he fell back to regroup, and Lee
I got another guess.
Lee pulled him of his command. And well, we only have one guess here. What school did you go to?
I go to North.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. Evidently, North End Memorial need a history lesson. They need to get off the history of what happened to the Mau Maus in Africa and what happened to the Indians in South America. They need to concentrate on what happened to America, to make it to America from 1492 when Christopher Columbus discovered parts of it to up to the 1800s, to find out where we came from, and that'll give you an idea of where we're going. There were some great heroes of the American, it was kind of a civil war, but it was the American Revolution to throw off the British rule of the United States, throw it off the colonists. It was a protracted war. Several thousand died on both sides. The French came in on the side of the Americans, and finally the colonists won. The British came back in the War of 1812 and tried one more time, and that failed, and after that we've been pretty much allies with them. So, I'm going to take another call here. We're down to the 5-minute mark. Perhaps this is Fred the Truth Stafford giving us an apology of why he's not here. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Got the answer.
What's the question?
Who is General Washington?
You are the winner for the day. I think call number 10 or 11.
What do I get?
You get this Kleenex here. This one-of-a-kind Kleenex. There's not another Kleenex like this in the world.
So aren't you asking me where I go to school?
In the universe. Yeah, where do you go to school?
I don't go to school.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't go to school, and that's why he got the answer right. Okay, so beware of this Gorbachev thing coming up, State of the World Forum. And it's kind of molding now. We're seeing who's involved in the New World Order. President Bush is one of the main leaders. Gorbachev is the other. What they're trying to do is create a one-world socialist government. They're going to try and use the United Nations as the vehicle to bring it into place. But I guarantee you, when they put that one-world government leader and they set him in that chair, you will find out that we're on the road to ruin and destruction, and that is the beginning of the end for freedom, liberty, and democracy in the United States. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to say hi to Justin from the Candyman. Happy birthday. And the answer is George Washington.
Well, that is not the question, young man. The question is, in 1890, what state on July 3rd, the 43rd state, was admitted to the Union?
Canada.
Well, what school did you go to?
Memorial. Woo!
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If our school board, with the multi-million-dollar salaries, or benefits, and the lush surroundings that this feel-good leftist we have in as the superintendent of schools here, this OBE idiot that we've got running the schools here, this man that's making almost $100,000 a year, perhaps he needs to get his ass out of his office and get down to the schools and start teaching some history. And the same with every one of those other bums up there at that education office. Close it down and ship them back into the classroom and let them teach, instead of shuffling papers and then arguing about who's going to go play golf today or tomorrow. Right now, they're still arguing out on the golf course on who's going to get their 4-week vacation first. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck, just like a comment, I just think that you're wrong a lot when you comment on the quality of the education that we have here in Eau Claire. I am a student at Memorial High School. I'd just like to say that I'm proud of the education that I've gotten there, and that when I go out and go to the colleges that I'm interested in, I think it's great that a lot of them have heard of Memorial. And that's outside of the state of Wisconsin. They recognize the quality of education.
Okay, what do you think about this OBE that's coming down the line? Are you using that yet where you're at?
Excuse me?
This outcome-based education where you don't really have grades and it's more about how you feel and what you know?
Not at Memorial.
It's supposedly creeping into the system here now.
Well, I know there are some things wrong with the grading system that we do have at our school now.
Do you have like A, B, C, D, and F, or what do you got?
Yes, we do, and it's based on the 4.0 scale for the grade point average. It's 4 for an A, 3 for a B.
Well, from what I understand, our school board is trying to scuttle that and go to the feel-good, more of the social issues like putting condoms on bananas and knowing how to be a good sodomite and things of that nature is what is being taught now, and those are more important now to survive in society than knowing your history.
Well, I think a lot of the times it doesn't appear to me that you realize the quality of education that we are getting. Most of the kids do get a fairly decent education and do know their history, and it may not be reflected in the certain individuals that call into your show all the time.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and it's 3 o'clock, and sorry to have cut you off. That was a good caller there, and this has been the Kyle Report. I've been your host, Chuck Lee, and my director is my Roy Rogers Hoff, Sr., and this program has been brought to you live from the beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Memorial Library and Taco Stand PAX Kyle Report Studios. We'll see you next week right here. Adios. question is, what time is it? Hello? 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 You're on the air. Hello?